Welcome to Weird Games and Weirder People, a podcast about role-playing games and the weird, wonderful people behind them.
Hello, wonderful weirdos. This is Diogo Nogueira, and today's guest is the one and only Harley Stroh. Harley is one of the most amazing adventure writers I have ever had a chance to meet. He wrote a modern classic, which is Sailors of the Starless Sea. He wrote Tomb of Savage Kings. He wrote Purple Planet, Peril of the Purple Planet. He wrote the new Symphony of the Masks, then the new DCC 100 adventure that has this spinning map. It's so amazing. But before I get to talk more about Harley, I have to remind you to please, if you like the show, subscribe to the podcast wherever you listen to your podcasts. Leave us a review, tell everybody what you think about the show, say good things or bad things, I don't know. And if you can, support the show. If you have a few coins left from your last adventure, there is links in the show notes where you can buy one of my games, buy us a coffee, I don't know, help us pay for the bills of this. But getting back to Harley Stroh, we talk a lot about, game design, about creative process, how he tries to, write an adventure that is worth of amazing art of the artists that work with him. He talked about how he likes skateboarding, how he goes skiing, how art really influenced his work. We talk about how his parents were role models for him. They were artists, how Harley has issues dealing with anger and how he has learning how to manage that and then be a better person. I gushed a lot of saying nice things about him. It was a great chat. We talked about many experiences, weird things we love. It was an amazing chat. It was a great opportunity, to pick the brain of one of my favorite adventure writers. I hope you enjoy it as much as I did. So let's get weird with Harley Stroh. Hey Harley, welcome to Weird Games and Weirder People. It's so good to have you here. How have you been, my friend?
I've been well. How about you, sir? How are things going?
I've been great. I mean, I've went to Game on Expo. I've went to GaryCon. I saw a bunch of our DCC RPG family, and
Yeah,
I'm glad to see you. I'm super happy to talk to you. I've always been a great fan. I admire your work as a writer, as a judge, as a person, so happy to be here, my friend.
it's mutual. I have Primal Quest right here on my monitors. Um, it's my background reading when I don't have other stuff going on. But tell me about GaryCon. Have you spoken about that yet on the show?
Oh, I've spoken a little bit with Lucas Strayton, from Pirate Borg.
Uh-huh.
We went to both to Game on Expo and GaryCon. He was also a panelist on Game on Expo, so we got to connect there a little bit. And when we went to GaryCon, it felt like we were spending almost 2 weeks together. So it was very nice, and yeah,
That's awesome.
it was amazing.
And,
Yeah,
and what'd you end up
and
doing?
it was great for me.
Yeah, was it?
Well, on GaryCon, it was mostly hanging out. I didn't have any, events planned.
Mhm.
And, everyone on Facebook was giving me flack about not having events. We won't be able to do anything. And I was refusing games because
Good
I
for you.
wanted to
Yeah,
hang out with people,
yeah, yeah.
but I played too because it's a gaming convention, so I did enjoy playing a little bit. Uh,
Do you have
but
highlights from the show?
Yeah, I mean, for me, the highlights was hanging with people. I hang out with Gabriel from Metal Gods of Fury that too that I met on my first Gen Con, and we meet again
Oh,
on his first GaryCon, and I get to hang out with Adam Muskevich.
oh,
He went
nice.
there,
Oh,
and we spent the whole day together talking about parenthood, gaming, stuff that we're making, stuff that we're finding out about ourselves.
yeah.
Uh, was
That's
amazing. I
cool.
hang out with people from the Mad Dungeons podcast. I
Uh-huh.
met Kelsey John. I gave a hug at Jen and Bob. We did the
Oh,
cultural exchange with DCC. Did
that's wonderful.
the drawing monsters royal listen to heavy metal with Doe Kovacs, which was amazing.
That's fantastic.
Was
Now,
so much
were
fun.
you
So
were
much
you
fun.
one of the original metal gods with Miscavige back in the day? Did
Well,
you?
I I don't know. I mean, that's I think that's I don't think original. I went in 2014. I went to Gen Con.
Uh-huh.
They basically adopted me, which I am like super grateful for that. Uh, but then they invited me to play with them on their group on the Google Hangouts. We played as Metal Gods. So
Mhm.
I instantly became one of them.
That's wonderful.
And I'm writing for the fourth edition, but I didn't contribute to the first one. So
Okay.
no, I wasn't an original one, but I feel like part of the crew,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
it was
Oh,
amazing to hang out with them and see Adam again. I mean,
yeah.
it
All
was
right.
incredible.
I hope he's doing well. I haven't seen him in years now. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, his podcast, Drink Spring Run, is still probably my favorite podcast until today. I
Oh,
felt like
yeah.
I
Yeah.
was hanging out with him, with Don, and with the guests.
Oh,
It was amazing.
oh, that's fantastic. That sounds like a really good
Yeah,
trip. So, how long did you
yeah.
travel all told, all together?
It was about I left on the 13th,
Uh-huh.
13th, and I came back on the 26th, so 13th days. It was very cool, and
That's amazing.
spend some time. It's hard to stay away. The last 2 days was like I want to go home. I want my family. I want my
Right.
bed.
Right. Yeah, you
Yeah,
have
but it,
little
it
ones at
was
home,
great.
right? How old are your
Yeah, I
children?
have a 8 year old man.
Oh
Yeah,
my gosh.
Pablo and yeah, but
Oh,
we talked. Now we have this. We have FaceTime. We have stuff like this, so I was able to call them in the mornings, and sometimes during the event I find some quiet place there,
uh-huh.
and I showed him the snow and things like this. So it's very, very cool. But Harley,
Yeah.
maybe the wonderful weirdos out there might
Yes.
not know who you are, and I
That's
also love to ask the guests who come here to say in their own words instead of just reading a bio.
sure.
So Harley,
Yeah.
who is Harley Stroh? What is that you do? And if you can you share just a small weird detail about yourself? Maybe the way you do coffee, or the way you choose your clothes, or any weird habits you might have.
Sure. So thank you, Diego. I'm Harley Stroh. I am a freelance writer for Goodman Games. I started writing for well, I'm a freelance writer. I started writing for Goodman Games back in 2004 with DCC 17 Legacy of the Savage Kings, and which interesting note that was also the first DCC that had art by Doug Kovacs, who I've been really
Wow.
really blessed to have developed a friendship and a relationship with Doug, and we've not been together ever since. But that I've been really blessed that friendship, that relationship has grown in the 20 years now since we first published together. But I had also
Oh,
submitted
amazing.
Legacy of the Savage Kings on Joseph's. Well, Joseph received it on his birthday, so that was my first publication with Goodman Games, and since then I've had the privilege to write for a few different publishers, but primarily, if people know about me, it's because of my work through Goodman Games, and most recently with Dungeon Crawl Classics. And so I've written a number of Dungeon Crawl Classic adventures. The most recently published was DCC 100. We just finished up the
Yes.
crowdfunding for Return to the Purple Planet and or Adventures on the Purple Planet, which is going to be a hardcover book that's going to include some new adventures. So yeah, so I and then something weird about me.
Will
Yeah, sorry, go.
will the hardback have the legendary missing pamphlets of the
It
box that
will.
said that no
Oh, I'm
one
so glad you
has?
asked that.
Oh yes,
Yeah, I'm so excited.
great.
I'm so excited. Yeah. So for listeners that may not know, in the original, I don't know if it'll see this. Let's see. In the original box set of Purple
Yes.
Planet, we included glossography of the Yoth. Anyway, anyways, we included glossography of the Yoth, of which there were like trying to remember, maybe 10 or 11 original
10
pages.
or 12, right?
Yeah, something like that. Yeah, and but through the magic of modern day publishing. Oh, thanks, Kat. Hold on, give me 1 second. I'm also a dad in this moment. Stella Gianna,
Yeah, yeah.
you want to come say hi to my friend Diogo? Hi.
Hi. Nice to meet you. Yeah.
This is Stella. She's in 4th grade here.
Hi, Stella.
Diogo, you
Yeah.
said your son was 8. Is that right?
Yeah, he's on 3rd grade here, and
Oh, that's
he's
awesome.
playing Minecraft with a friend
Right
on
on.
the living room.
Right on.
Yeah.
Do you think are you good or yeah? Okay, all right. I love you, kiddo.
All right. See you.
And so each of the box sets got one random page out of the glossography, and the idea was that gamers would find the glossography, they'd scan it, they'd upload it to to G Plus or whatever, and then together they could all like work together to collect the entire glossography. Well, some pages were never found, and so but we've now, yeah. So to answer your question, for the hardback, it collects the full compiled glossography that will be shared in its
Very nice.
incompleteness with everyone, which is super fun.
That's amazing.
I'm so excited. Yeah.
And, yeah. And in Harley, you forgot one thing that's very important to the show here. It's the weird part. And can you share just maybe a small weird detail? I mean, I interrupted you.
No.
I'm so
You're
rude,
fine.
but I mean,
You're fine.
yeah. Can you share just as maybe something weird about yourself?
Yeah.
Do you see yourself as someone weird or no?
I think probably everyone's weird in their honest appraisal of themselves. I think we're all. I mean, that's one of the beauties. That's why you're a writer. That's why I'm a writer. I never could have come up with Primal Quest, but because of the unique circumstances that inform your life, you were able to create this beautiful, work of art, that was your release. And I can, I still hope to, to write for it one day. But I never could.
Me too.
I didn't have the gems, that were in my head to create what you created, in the way that you did. So similarly, another way to reframe, weirdness is the uniqueness, and we're all, despite all the globally shared human experiences we have that allow us to relate to one another, your specific set of unique circumstances your specific weirdness allowed you to create Primal Quest. My specific weirdness, allowed me to create, I don't know, whatever, Sailors on the Starless Sea. And so what's weird about me? Can I tell you a story? A weird story?
Oh yeah, of course.
Would that qualify? I don't know that I can think of something that's terribly special or weird or unique about me, but I can tell you a story that maybe highlights the weird way that I approach life, which is probably not unique, which is actually really fun. All right, so
yeah,
when I was, this has happened a couple times now, but when you're focused on something as an artist, you tend to see that thing out in the world more often. If you I was like Yogo, when you go on the way
that's
to
the
school,
same thing about
go.
Positivity and negativity. When you focus on good things, it's not that you attract good things, but you pay more attention to the good things that happen to you. And when you focus on bad stuff, it's not necessarily that more bad stuff is happening to you, but you notice more and more small bad stuff, and that gets you even sadder.
And it just compiles, right? It just builds.
Yeah.
So when I was writing Peril on the Purple Planet, it happened to be a really wet season. And I remember very distinctly, everywhere I went, when I was walking around town, when I was going to work, when I was, Stella was in a stroller back then, when I was walking them around, I would see mushrooms everywhere I went. And mushrooms figure prominently on Peril on the Purple Planet. And so, so the thing I was writing about was also the thing that I saw out in the world. And almost as if, the world and I were having this dialogue about, what needs to take place in the Purple Planet. So the same thing happened when I was writing, it's not Bride of the Black Manse. It's the giant one. Oh shoot. It's Doug Kovacs's, or there's like the 3-headed giant,
the big eye, yeah,
or
yeah.
three-eyed giant.
I remember the Colossus, right?
Beyond the Black Gate. That's what it was. Beyond the Black Gate.
Oh yeah, Beyond the Black Gates. Yeah.
Yeah. Which features prominently in the introduction, with like witches and witches familiars and that sort of thing. I was reading a lot of like Mignola Hellboy at the time, and but while I was writing that, it would be in the mornings. These flocks of crows would gather outside our bedroom window constantly, and just like be like calling at me constantly, like every day when I was writing this adventure. Did I manifest these crows to inform the adventure that I wanted to write about familiars? No, but it was something that I was, that you see and you recognize in the world when you're writing this thing. So that's, I don't know if that's weird or not, but that's my relationship with writing and reality around me as I work.
That's amazing. I've been actually listening to a book called The Creative Act.
Mm-hmm.
It's by Rick Rubin. He's like a producer, artist. And it's amazing. And I've noticed various books about art and creativity that talks as if you like artists and creators as ourselves, that we are more as like vehicles, ways for the creativity in the universe to manifest ourselves.
Mm-hmm.
And the more we are in tune with it, more we are mindful to these connections that you're seeing, like the crows and the things that I notice and I see. I talking about dreaming and now making books about dreams. And the more we're in tune with this, the better our art becomes, and the more we become more obsessive for ourselves, for our egos, what we want to get out of the art instead of kind of serving it.
Have you ever had the experience?
Not as good. It not be as good, right?
But have you had the experience where like you're writing an adventure or you're writing a game, and the solution just isn't there? Like you have this idea of what you want it to be like, right? And then
I just had this,
and you work, and then finally you're just like, and at some point, just like all the blocks start dropping into place, and you're like, that was what I perceived. But tell me your story. You said it just happened. What do you mean?
Yeah, it just happened. I have this thing. I wanna write a game.
Mm-hmm.
So what I do to motivate myself is that I hire artists and I pay them for a cover, a really nice cover. So I spend some big bucks.
Yeah.
And I say, well, now I have to write this because I've spent awesome. $500 on this cover. So I have to write this game. So I have this cover since 2022, and I had this concept of a game, inspired by Lankmore, inspired by Ankh Morpork, inspired by Neil Gaiman, which is basically like every role-playing game. We control characters, we go on adventure and stuff, and the players ourselves, we're almost like gods playing this game with these mortals, right?
Yes, right.
So my idea is to do a game like this Small Gods from Terry Pratchett, or these Tales of Gods on Lankmore, that you as a player, you are a petty god. So you begin the game as a small god. You can be the god of earwax, the god of ducks, the god of, mushrooms, or anything like small. And you, as a, you have a character, like any other role-playing game, you have a character, which is a mortal, which is your plaything.
Yeah.
So you have a plaything that go on adventures, and you are, as a petty god, you want to become a greater god. And you like all the metagaming thing that you do in normal RPGs, like you spend experience points and everything. You are a god doing that. Like you're sitting with other gods at the table, and you're doing like, I'm gonna do this with this mortal, I'm gonna do this divine intervention here. And like the XP you can expand your faith, like you create holidays, you get more worshippers, you get other play things, like you can start treating the city as a board game, and every session is one night, because it's easier to do this because there are rules against divine intervention. So that's why you use play gods to expand your faith. And every time you spend points like to do divine intervention, you can attract the ire of the greater gods. Sure. So you act at night. So every session is a night, so it can be like an open game table. If you miss a session, your plaything simply wasn't there that night. And and it's working with this. Like there's no metagaming, because metagaming inside the game, and there's other play things like the GM too gets into that, because if your plaything gets over the city, he becomes the overlord, which is the GM, and then you have to become the GM. So I'm playing with the median of the game and everything else. And I was using a system that was very much like Primal Quest, but my game run a horror game using this very unique system that gets more hectic and hectic as it gets to the end of the night. And it was perfect for a game that happens every session is one night, right?
Yeah.
As it's getting closer to dawn, and it's a game about scoundrel and doing hectic things. It's perfect because it will get more and more hectic, and the destiny of the gods and the mortals will be in the height of this destiny die, you know.
That's
and
fantastic.
it was just because 2 years like doing one thing and having an epiphany and changing everything and just coalescing into this idea that is basically ready. I just have to sit down and put it on paper. It's incredible. Have you ever had an experience like this too?
I have, but hold on. But I want to like loop back to what you were saying at the start. Can you show us the cover of this? Have you been working from a cover? Do you have an image you can share?
Oh yeah. Let me open here the file, and I will do the screen sharing, right? Where's the art? Cover art. Here. I even have a cover for an adventure. I'm paying people, and I have nothing, but I'm paying people.
It's an investment in art. You can never go wrong paying for.
I'm creating jobs, you know. I'm opening a file here. I will share the.
That's awesome.
Okay. Let me see. This right?
Yeah.
Present. Share screen. Select a tab to share now. Window. Here. Share. I'll send you. Okay. I'll send you the image through.
I would love to see it. Thank you for sharing it.
Yeah, I mean, it's the image is well, people from the podcast won't be able to see, but the image I have, because I have a Macintosh, so I have to allow everything, because today everything's about consent, so I have to have consent for everything in the computer too. So I have to figure out how I can share this thing, and then I start to share, and I don't have permission, and it's horrible. I don't know.
Well,
but anyway, the cover shows like a kind of a cartoony, because one of the influence too is kind of Adult Swim cartoons.
Okay.
Do you remember Korgoth the Barbarian?
Oh wow, yes.
So the idea you can have like more serious kind of Lankmar, or more cartoon like Korgoth, and you can have the god of marijuana or the god of and characters be cartoons, like your character can be a duck or something like this, you know.
That's so fun.
And the art, the cover art is kind of this cartoony adventures, like scoundrels sneaking towards a temple with like flames in the city, in the shadows behind, but in the sky above, like the clouds are covering the moon, but like between the clouds you see many eyes of the gods watching.
That's awesome.
Those mortals, you know.
That's
and the title of the game is Petty Gods and Playthings.
Petty Gods and Playthings. I look forward to seeing that. That's so exciting.
Yeah, I'm excited. Yeah.
Who was the artist that you chose to work with?
Is Lukas Piwinski. Okay. I'm probably butchering his name. He's from Poland. There's a lot of Polish creators and artists doing amazing work, both in writing, design, and graphic arts. From there, it's been really a pleasure work with them, and I interviewed some of them here on the show too. I will send you some links if you want to check them out, and the links to the artists who did the cover too, as well. I'll put on the show notes so people can check it out too.
Yeah.
But Harley, and what about you? Have you ever
Yeah, I mean,
gone
there's
through something like this?
I think there's I'm a terribly slow writer, and so periodically I'll just be I'll be working on a project, and I'll know all the different elements that I want to use in an adventure or a story I'm writing or something. But I'll just like it's almost like kneading bread. Like you just like you work at it and you work at it and you work at it and you work at it until there's just I can't predict when it's going to happen. You're always a little bit
Yeah.
terrified that when it does, that moment of inspiration does happen, will it ever happen again? Am I ever gonna be able to write again? But there's just this act of faith that you're going forward, that you have these pieces, you know that you want them to work together. You don't know how they're supposed to work together, but if you put in the work, if you put in the effort and the hours, eventually, just one piece makes sense that causes the rest to like cascade down together, and it's like a jigsaw puzzle, just like that you're struggling with, just like all of a sudden, all the pieces start to make sense together, and and really, like, for all of my larger projects, DCC 100, in anything big that I've written recently, it's always relied on that moment of to come together and start to make sense at some point. I think
Yeah.
most recently, it was Chessmen on the Purple Planet, that I was writing. That, yeah, and I think as creators, we hold ourselves to a standard, right? We don't, there's this idea that, oh, you get paid by the word, you're just going to fluff it out, and you're going to add 500 words. Like, I can't speak for yourself, but my
No,
experience is
yeah.
it's impossible to do that. Like, I know what it's supposed to look like. I know, in my head, like, like, if anything, I'm cutting this thing down, making it smaller and smaller and smaller, and more
Yeah,
precise and
yeah,
more
and we,
precise.
we we have trouble fitting the budget at least because some you are paid by the word too, but we are also. I usually have like 10,000 words to write, and I write 16,000, and I'm
Right.
like, fuck, I have to cut. I have to
Exactly.
keep only the best of the best
I
stuff,
know,
right?
right? And
And
it's not for the
that's
paper.
what it is about, right?
Right.
The best stuff with the least amount of words.
Yeah. Yeah. And how can we, elegantly, as elegantly as possible, convey these ideas that, cause judges and players to fall in love with these worlds that we've created, right?
Yeah. It's very hard. And have this ever happened to you with a project that you, for example, I started this at 2022. I wrote some things, did some playtesting, but move on to other things because I had to finish. I have freelance, I have other stuff,
Mm-hmm.
and now like after not touching it for about almost a year, I always wanted to come back to it, but having all that other stuff to do, having this idea and coming back to it and working a little bit and taking out the notes. Have this happened to you, or usually it's something, as you said, you're constantly working bits by bits on
Yeah.
it?
So when you come back to it, are you able to like recapture that original passion, or you come back to it and your mind's had a chance to rest, and you're like, oh, now I understand what I
Well,
wanted to do here.
maybe on this project, yes, because it has always been in the back of my mind, because
Uh-huh.
I love Ankmar. I love this urban fantasy, like scoundrels,
Yeah.
anti-heroes. We're not here to save anyone. We're here to get our stuff. And yeah, we end up saving someone because we're stealing from rich bastards
Right.
and sorcerers and stuff like this. But it's not the main goal. And I
Right.
love this, and it's always in the back of my mind, and religion and doing stuff with gods and kind
Uh-huh.
of being
Uh-huh.
critical about it. I'm an atheist, and one of the godlings you can be is the god of atheism. So you become more powerful as less people believe in gods.
Oh,
You
that's
know,
fun. Oh gosh, I can't wait to see it.
uh,
I'm excited. I know we don't want to, like, how do you track that? Is it the number of followers? Like, how did you end up figuring out how powerful the gods are
well,
and play things?
well, XP is how
Oh,
you measure your faith growing. So the more XP is more than less faithful people, less people respecting holidays and stuff like this.
that's wonderful. But to your question,
That's been always on my mind. So I came back to it easily because I had an epiphany. I had an idea. I was like, wow, this kind of mechanic will be. The thing is, I was playing this horror game that the thing was getting more and more dramatic, but I was realizing how the mechanics work. I was doing all this stuff in my head. Oh, I can do this, I can do that, I can do this. I wasn't paying attention in the game anymore. I was in another world, figuring out the system.
Yes. Because you knew what you were going to do with it at that point. That's awesome.
Yeah,
oh, that's so fun.
I was like, I started noticing stuff, and one of my friends like, hey, I see what you're doing there, and now I have all these notes. I made a bunch of notes, and because it's something that has always been on my mind. But there's other projects that I end up, dropping for various things happen. And it's kind of hard to go back to it, right?
Right.
And even Primal Quest, I had like a burnout last year.
Really?
And it was hard to come back. And it's always a constant work to keep falling back in love with it, right? Mm-hmm. Reading about dinosaurs, watching documentaries about prehistoric civilization, stuff like this. And I love dinosaurs, but sometimes you want to do something different, right?
Yeah, of course.
I don't know.
Yeah.
How do you feel about your work? Do you wanna? You've been working with DCC for a long while. I love your work. I'm fascinated by it. You're one of my favorite writers. Almost all episodes we talk about adventures. Your name come up. Everybody loves your stuff. And yeah, I invite you to do Primal Quest. Do you ever feel like you want to explore different kinds of writing or different kinds of ways to express yourself or gaming?
Yeah, I mean that's what we're doing with the 7th Doom Quest of Delisle Kroom. So for the Purple Planet crowdfunding, Joseph allowed Doug and I to kind of tag one of our personal projects along with it. So it's more based out of Doug's, I don't know if you'd call it an imprint or whatever. So Doug publishes the Hobonomicon, which are these it's like if metal
deluxe zines.
Yeah, exactly. Like if heavy metal was for DCC, like this is like they're beautiful. They include a ton of art. Doug really focuses on the artists and the artwork, and so he and I are writing the 7th Doom Quest of Delisle Kroom, which is intentionally just it's a
that's for DCC too, right?
It's for DCC, but it's much more. My contributions are fiction plus some game text to go along with that fiction, and then with that go copious illustrations by Doug, just fully illustrated throughout. So it's the intent is to serve as kind of an atlas for the Purple Planet, and so you're following Delisle Kroom as he's here trying to escape his doom back in Punjar. He's coming here to the Purple Planet in an effort to confront his doom. But just the artwork and the emphasis on fiction rather than necessarily game design is a step away from what we normally do for Goodman Games. So that's something else that I've been doing for something a little bit different than just straight adventure writing. But like for Primal Quest, like I've always wanted to write a Lost Agartha edition, adventure. Like we did Journey to the Center of Aereth, and there's these horrible elephantine tyrannical overlords that live at the very center of the planet. And for Primal Quest, I wanted to what were they like back when the world was still in its infancy, and so you still have these volcanoes blowing up everywhere and dense forests and dinosaurs and what have you lumbering around, and what were the Lost Agarthans like back then, and kind of like in the world of Primal Quest. Anyways, but yeah, so it's always I suspect you run into the same thing. There's more adventures than there are, and more ideas than there are time to write or illustrate or create them.
Oh my god, yeah.
And so it's really just like this race against time, with the finite amount of days that I've been given allotted in this life, can I do justice to the ideas that I want to share with the world?
Yeah, and how do you do that? How do you plan?
Poorly.
What do you do when you write? Do
Yeah,
you have a creative routine? Do you have a
I do.
schedule that you
Yeah.
follow?
Yeah, and I'd be interested in hearing, because like as parents, it's really it's tricky, right? Because we have
Oh,
our
oh yeah,
children, which come first, right? And
of
then
course.
our spouses and our family life, and being able to like make sure everyone keeps a roof over their head and food. But so every day, my alarm's set for 4:30 in the morning. Um, it
Wow.
goes off.
When do you go to sleep?
Pretty early, like 8 or 9 after I put the kids to bed. Um,
Okay.
yeah, and then yeah, so yeah, but I'll go down, and I don't know about you, but I'm freshest in the morning, so I'll make the pot of coffee, I'll write for about an hour, and then we'll get Rusty Jones, take him for a walk. He's the dog, and about the time when I get back with Rusty, Stella or Jacob are waking up, make them breakfast, pack lunches for the day, get everybody off to school. And then, when I get home from work at the end of the day, I'll make dinner, and we do stories and bedtime, and that's it for the day. So the time that I have to write is really first thing in the morning. If I could get up at 3 and be functional, I would. I've actually, it's been weighing on me that I don't have enough time to write these days, and you don't, that's, I don't know. It's hard. It's really hard
Yeah,
to make those choices,
it
because the hours
is.
are finite in the day, and I don't know how to escape that.
Yeah, yeah. And do you have any kind of creative ritual to help you get into the moods to make the most of these finite hours that you get
Sure,
to
sure.
do your art, your creative work? Do
No,
you
no,
put
no,
some music,
no
anything
ritual.
like this?
Yeah, no ritual per se. I think just a hot drink. I like to drag my fingers over the top of the keyboard when I'm thinking, like that actually helps
Mm,
me um, focus up, and like if I'm stuck for a word, it's just become a habit now. I'll drag my
yeah.
fingers over the keys, but what's your daily ritual like? Like how do you make time to write and create your art?
I don't know. It's very chaotic. As you said,
Yeah,
kids and wife,
yeah,
and I have a day job, so
yeah,
which is basically pays the bill. So my
yep,
priorities is the kids and do whatever I have to do for the day job,
yep,
and do take care of my health,
yeah,
do exercise, this kind of stuff,
yeah.
you know, and yeah, spend
That's
some time with the kids, spend some
right,
time with the wife,
right.
and when I have some time left, yeah, I read, I write something. Every day I read a little bit of philosophy because of my anxiety. It's a way for me
Okay.
to control and try to be better.
Hmm.
Uh, I'm not very good with therapy. Uh, Socializing is not a strong suit for autistic people.
That's fair.
So,
I
you know,
understand that. Yeah, that's fair.
so philosophy, reading about stoicism has been helping me a lot. So I wake up, I drink some water, I
Hmm.
read the daily entry for the Daily Stoic and the
Uh-huh.
Daily Dad,
Uh-huh.
which is basically stoicism to be a better parent.
Hmm.
And
Did you release like
I
some
get a coffee,
postcard
go to
games?
work.
Did you make postcard
Oh
games
yeah,
with Stoicism?
I did I did a business card game about stoicism, but I do have a cover that I paid someone to do a game about stoicism.
That's
It's called In Search of Happiness, and
Oh
the game
wow.
it's like a solo journaling game because journaling is a big thing in stoicism, right? So it's a solo journaling game about life. So you draw cards, and every hand is like a couple of months or years, and you go for events. You events in your work. Maybe your boss is rude to you. Maybe you lose a promotion or something like
Yeah.
this, and you have 4 attributes, which are your 4 stoic virtues, like courage, wisdom, temperance, and justice. So you exercise them to overcome these obstacles, and if you succeed, you get a happiness mark. So you're happy because you're living
Right.
well, right?
Right.
But if you fail, you get experience points that allows you to improve your virtues because you only will improve by failing, right?
That's
And
fantastic.
you're right. You it's a kind of self-reflecting tool,
Uh-huh.
right? And kind of a game, and it's something that I'm very interested, I'm passionate about, so I kind of want to explore.
That's wonderful. What a positive worldview too. Yeah, you can either be the options are not happiness or depression, but happiness and the opportunity
Yeah,
to learn. That's really wonderful.
yeah.
That's really fantastic.
It's very stoic, and the idea is also the book will have like a quick guide to stoicism, the rules of the game, and the other half of the book will actually be the journal for you to write on the actual book, and will kind of format to be like a Moleskine or something like
Yeah,
this.
yeah. That's
And
exciting.
yeah,
Oh,
yeah, I hope
congratulations.
it works. Yeah. Congratulations for the idea, because ideas, that's what you said, like ideas are so,
Yeah,
we have so many.
yeah.
Like I have this app, like notes app, with hundreds and
Oh
hundreds and
yes. Oh
hundreds
my
and
gosh.
hundreds of ideas,
Yeah, yeah,
and
yeah. I used to try
sitting
to
down to make them is the hard thing, right?
I used to try to set myself Apple reminders, be like, oh, okay, remind myself of this idea, and I just get overwhelmed. I finally had to turn it off because like it was like, don't forget this for warlords on the purple planet. Don't forget about this for this, and it's like, like
Yeah,
stop, like that screenplay is never going to get written. Like enough of the reminders.
yeah.
So I haven't figured out a good way to track those ideas. You hear like Brendan LaSalle, right?
I
He keeps these just thick notebooks full of ideas
Yeah,
and you can imagine like his desk at home. He can just pull open this magical desk drawer and pull out 15 pads all
yeah.
rich with ideas. But I'm not that guy. If I dropped the virtual background, you'd see a basement in disarray, um, with a lot of gaming books scattered around. But yeah,
But do you take notes in any way? I mean,
I do.
I do have like a notebooks, but I use like a OneNote app with
Uh-huh.
folders and have everything there.
Uh,
And I know I won't be able to do everything, but I
right.
mean, I see this like idea notebooks as almost like a morgue of dead ideas, and we as artists are almost like Frankenstein, Dr. Frankenstein's. We're
That's so
putting
fun.
these things together and mixing this dead stuff and making new monstrous new stuff, and put them to life,
Yes,
making them
bringing them to
alive.
life.
It's alive.
Waiting for that bolt of lightning from out of the darkness
Yeah.
to bring these ideas to life. That's a wonderful way to think
Uh,
about these ideas. Yeah, I mean, you asked, do I keep notes? Like, I mean, I do, but there's any rationale to them? I don't know that there is. It's just scribbled
yeah.
ideas of I mean, we are so privileged to have the opportunity to both have the like the space. I mean, it takes technology. We're working on computers, so there's a wealth component, but also to be imbued with the awareness that we can create things, right? Because like any child is
Oh
an
yeah.
artist. Any child's a creator, and
Mm-hmm.
whatever reason, a lot of that's just like beaten out of a lot of adults. There's nothing
Yeah.
inherently special about Harley Stroh as a creator. There could be a bajillion Harley Strohs out there, but they've been all taught to come home at night and watch television instead, and they wake up in the morning and they go
Yeah.
about their same day, and the only difference is one of us thinks that, oh, I want to share my ideas with everybody, and the other's like, wow, I wonder what ideas are out there being shared. Like, we're so fortunate that we have this belief that we can create things that are going to be interesting to other people. um, and I wonder where that
Yeah.
comes from. And like
Yeah.
what made
That
you
was
want to
I
be a
was gonna
creator?
ask you.
Yeah, what made you want to be a creator?
I was gonna ask you the same thing. For me, I mean, I always loved pop culture. I loved games,
Yeah.
and I consumed them. And I also have this belief that everybody that plays role playing games, they are creators. They are
Oh
creating
yes,
characters. They are
absolutely.
creating adventures. Like every GM is a game designer. But to take the next step, like I'm gonna make this, and I'm gonna sell to other people. Other people are
Uh-huh.
gonna play my stuff. I think it had was like a conjunction of factors. There is this book about by Al Sinclair called Still Like an Artist, which is fantastic. It's a really quick read, and it's a methodology of looking at creativity and making art that I follow to this day. I follow it almost to the letter. It's the way I do my work. And
Wait.
DCC, seeing the community, making the game their own, making zines, and just in their own, as you said, like in their basement, just making something, stepping it together, and mailing it to people all around the world. People just like me. They never published anything. They just made something and sent it to people. And I said, hey, I can do that too, And that's what I did. Like I in 1 month, I said, well, I'm gonna make a game. In 1 month, still like an artist, getting stuff from the games that I like, making it my own. Maximum of 64 pages, and using all my art or public domain stuff or cheap stock art, and that's it. And that's how I made, Shop Sword and Sensor Spells. Started sharing it around, and I couldn't stop, If you follow, that's it. Like, if you follow the methodology of Still Like an Artist, you can't stop. You just keep going, and I've been trying to do it until today. Have been periods that I have been worked more or less, and I experienced a burnout, but that's what I've been doing.
That's what. That's
it. And you?
Yeah. What you said rings so true. Every judge, every game master, every DM is a creator, and that's absolutely true. I was.
What made you?
Well, yeah.
Jump the gun,
I followed the woman who would become my wife, Heather. I followed her. She went and got a job on the East Coast of the United States, and I followed her out there. And so I left Boulder, Colorado. I lost my gaming group. Is that there's that certain age, right, when everyone's graduating college, they're all getting jobs, they're all traveling or following people because of love, whatever have you. And so, but we had been gaming together consistently through my bachelor's degree, my master's degree, and so we went from playing 1 or 2 games a week to I had no creative outlet. I wasn't able to do that creation that all judges do, all DMs do, and it was because, and so I wasn't making games for my players anymore, or making adventures. So what I did is I wrote up an adventure, and I sent it to one of my players because he was now running games. I was like, here, let me make an adventure module, and you can run it for your game. And it was the same thing. It wasn't for publication, right? So if there was an image on the internet, I posted it into Word here, and I like this lizard man image, and so I'm going to post it into here, and I wrote that up and I sent it to my friend, and that ended up being my first DCC adventure. That was Legacy of the Savage Kings, and we took,
wow.
I had written an adventure for my friend. And then I was going through the gaming store, and I saw, early on, like Goodman Games, they had the blue lined maps, like the old TSR maps, and I saw them like, oh my god, this is amazing! I want to write this, and so I stripped all the art out and had a printed copy and sent it off to Joseph Goodman, and that was my introduction to game publication. And so I was a
awesome,
judge. I was a frustrated judge who needed some way to share these adventure ideas.
That makes me think. First of all, it's very interesting, and kind of makes me think of this needs that we as creators have of having this creative outlet, and things that you said, like some kids go watch TV, and some kids go create something. I'm really try to encourage my kids to make something and not just watch, but it's very hard. Do you think you always had this will of making something instead of just consuming, or do you think everybody can have this need for creative outlets, or it's something that is cultivated? And also what happens if you don't have this? Do you have ever experienced not being able to create, and what happened to you when this happened,
I
when you
yeah,
went through this?
yeah. And so I think, and you've probably seen this too as a dad. Like you have sheaves and sheaves of paper. Like your kids are always drawing, and they're always like illustrating something. Like my son Jacob, he recently fell in love with Minecraft, and so we have this. We've taped together like 20 sheets of 8.5, 11 paper on the wall that he's illustrating. He's going to do Minecraft this year and this year, and um, so I think yes, I think as human beings, I think it's one of our it's a natural need, this desire to create, and that
Did you have an example of a creator when you were growing up, someone
well no
you
that's
looked up to,
a
or?
great question. My mother is an artist. She works in pastels and oils, and so I was always able to see. I had a role model for someone that created stuff. Well, and then my father too. Although it's cool because their mediums are completely different. When I was young, we homesteaded this area. It was blank, like it was this prairie land out in Colorado, in the United States, and there was nothing there. It was 360 acres with nothing. And so my father's creative outlet is we built the house, and the water pump and the cistern and the windmills to generate power,
Yeah,
um, and so
it's a
so
craftsman. Yeah.
yeah, well, yeah, both my parents are creative, but their mediums are completely different. Whereas my mother's creating what's
Yeah.
traditionally art. My father's creating, to build a ranch is is
Mm-hmm.
is definitely the act of creation in
Oh
a
yeah,
different way. And
for sure.
it's art, but it's not necessarily what we recognize.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Yeah.
but I think
As many people won't
yeah,
recognize what we do as art too. Like many
right,
people look at
right,
games and say, "No,
yeah,
that's
yeah.
not art."
That's all right. We don't.
Yeah.
It's really easy
Yeah.
to disregard those opinions. I'm totally comfortable with that. But I think it's but if and this is interesting because we're game publishers, we make a living or some sort we make income by selling people games. When at the same time,
Oh yeah.
you and I both know that like somebody else. Well, okay, let me. Whew, I get so excited, Yoga. I'm so sorry. All right. We make a living by creating stuff and selling it to people, and at the same time we're hoping that they'll get inspired by that and create something and then sell it to us, right? Like I don't want to just sell
Oh
you
yeah.
sailors. I also want to buy Primal Quest from you. But then you get
Mm-hmm.
you get out of this kind of indie DIY headspace, and you see larger corporations where like, well, no, you're not qualified to create things. We're going to provide you with what you need,
Mm-hmm.
to run these games that we're going to make. Um and 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 that inspiration, that hope that the judges at home are going to create their own thing, make their own zine, write their own adventures, be the next Yogo, be the next Harley Stroh, isn't there for larger corporations, because they just want you to sit back, buy it, be passive, receive these
Mm-hmm.
things. When even though you and I are selling our work, at the same time we're also hoping that it inspires other people to create the same way that we create.
Absolutely. Yeah.
That's
And I remember, reading DCC, the core book, and I kind of want to read it again. Like I read it several times, and every time you read it, it kind of inspires you to make something, right?
uh-huh,
Like
uh-huh.
one thing that I have this idea I want to do, like the DCC, they have this small table of how you can get a spell.
Yeah.
Like a small table, you get this spell from this guy doing this or that. I wanted to make a zine of tables of how to get all the spells. Like the zine is only that. It's only tables of ideas of quests like fireball,
Oh,
1d6 ideas of how you can get a fireball
that's
spell.
so
You
fun.
know,
That's so fun.
and I love how the game purposefully leave all these blanks
Hmm.
and say explicitly, "Hey, judge," or "Hey,
Yeah,
DCC players,
yeah.
we're leaving this blank for you to feel.
Yeah.
This game is yours. Go make it yours.
Mm-hmm.
And this was such a shift in the paradigm for me, because I was coming, from D&D. I stopped playing when I went to college. I was playing D&D 3rd edition and stuff. I came back with D&D 4th edition, and like you, I wasn't playing. I was reading. I started having money because I had a job, so I bought all the books. I was reading. They felt great, well balanced, well designed. But I sat down to play. It was completely different from what I remember as role-playing games, and I saw other things. I found OSR, I found Labyrinth Lord, and I found about DCC. And it changed the way I saw fantasies, the way I saw games, the way I saw books, the way I saw illustrations, because, you would see D&D, all this colorful, really, polished, really... No, black and white quite is very polished, but it's very homogeneous, very... I don't know, very clean art. And you see DCC is very unique. Every character is doing their own stuff, like fantasy, like every illustration, it can be a different universe.
Yeah.
And it's so great. Like, wow, this can be so much more than I thought it would, right? Well, and I think that also helps you create stuff, right? Wow, I can make up stuff too. I don't have to prescribe to these rules.
Yes, exactly. And you started, correct me if I'm wrong, but I want to say, like, it was back in the early days of G+. I remember was that when you started doing illustrations, or have you always been a visual artist? Or
oh yeah, I mean, I went to art school. I always wanted to make art. I always wanted to be an artist. My parents hated it. They sent me to military school.
No.
They wanted me
oh my goodness
to go to follow the path, and then I said, no, well, okay, I won't be an artist, but I want to do history. I said, no, are you crazy? You're going to be a history teacher. What are you going to do for history? And then here in Brazil, graphic design, for some reason, they would call industrial drawing or something like this.
Okay.
And I said, and a teacher of mine said, I was doing like comics classes, and I said, oh, you say to your parents that you're gonna do industrial drawing. They won't know what it is, and you will get in,
That's
and awesome. I said, hey, I'm gonna do industrial drawing, and they're like, oh, is that like engineering? I was like, yes, and they're like, okay.
Oh, that's so fun.
And when I was in already, and I was doing all this drawing and cutting and gluing stuff, like I was in kindergarten again, they was like, what is this? Like, that's industrial drawing.
There you go.
That's too late.
That's so fun.
And then, I did, children's book illustrations. I did all this work with art. And I always loved drawing, And I started doing drawings for RPGs too, and now I find myself I enjoy more writing than drawing, for some reason.
Have you created any children's books for your own family?
Oh yeah. Oh, not my own family, but I mean I've created one inspired by Brazilian folklore. I have one that isn't published yet, inspired by one of our first kitties, one of the first cats I had, who died, which was kind of a cat that doesn't know it is a cat. It was kind of this kitty that you could do anything with. It's like it would lay down on paper, so it would play that she thinks it's like a paperweight. You could do anything with it. It was very, very gentle cat and wouldn't behave like a normal cats would behave, right?
Right.
And we kind of joke that she only found out she was a cat when we adopted another cat from the same cat family. That was her sister, and I'm like, oh wait, that's what I am.
I thought it was one of you guys. So I have to ask, how did your cat die?
Oh, old age. I mean,
Okay, okay,
she
okay,
lived until she was 17. Kidney
okay.
stuff,
Yeah, all right.
and
Okay. I was worried that
I have been fortunate. I've lost cats, but they all live it well. They all live it at least 16 years.
that's wonderful.
So I
That's
think that's a win, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I was worried that because she didn't know she
Yeah,
was a cat, she I don't know, walked
yeah,
out into the street somewhere or tried
yeah.
to cross the crosswalk and got
Oh,
run over.
she would fall all the time. She didn't have cat reflexes. she
Oh, I'm so
she
sorry.
wouldn't jump like between shelves. She would
No.
try to stretch herself to the other shelf
Oh,
and
that's
wouldn't reach and just fall.
poor cat. Oh dear.
Do you have pets?
Yeah, yeah. We have Rusty Jones who doesn't know that he's a dog. Um,
Oh yeah.
but when I was young, I must have been 8 or 9. I had a I had a cat that climbed up the not telephone, the power line, and unfortunately, like touched, grounded herself, from the
Yeah.
line, and she, power line blows up,
Mm,
explosions in the air, and then the cat's down on the ground. But she would let me hold her at the end of her life. Like, she was freaking out when everyone else was around, but she would let me hold on to her when she passed. But
wow.
yeah, yeah, no, but we have Rusty Jones. He's going on 13 years now. He's a great dog. But he's a dog of comfort. He loves to, if there's a pillow, if Heather goes to bed before I do, I'm putting the kids to bed or something. He'll find his way onto the bed, and he likes to rest his head up
Mm-hmm.
against the pillows at the top of the bed. He'll lay next to Heather. As soon as I die, Rusty Jones will take over as being head of the family. Yeah.
Yeah. Hello, wonderful weirdos. This is Diogo Nogueira again, and today I'd like to talk to you about one of my favorite games, a game that I created. And if you listen to the podcast, I love dinosaurs, and it's called Primal Quest. It is a weird stone and sorcery adventure game. It's a NSR game, which is this game that caters to the old school style of play, but has more modern and more cinematic gameplay adapted to our modern sensibilities. It has adventure with dinosaurs, ancient civilizations, spirity, sorcery, aliens, elder gods, and much, much more. It's very pulpy. It has, a complete rule set, a mini hex scroll, an adventure introductory adventure. You can find it at Exalted Funeral, itch.io, Drive-Thru RPG, and your best local game store. And we're releasing more and more stuff for it, so stay tuned and play Primal Quest. So let's get back to the weird with our chat. Harley, one question that I always love to ask guests that come here, because the show is called Weird Games and Weirder People, is what is weird for you? Can you try to define
Sure.
what you see as weird, and how do you seek that in your work, in the art that you do, in the adventures
Uh-huh.
that you make,
Uh-huh.
and also maybe outside of the work, like in your everyday life? Do you seek the weird? Are you fascinated by it?
Yeah. Yeah. I think in the traditional definition of the weird, I definitely seek it out. Weird stories. When you think about old comics, weird tales, um,
Mm-hmm.
and those are always fascinating. But that's not certainly not unique to me. Um, I think I would to answer your question, I would say weird is something that at its best would be unexpected in the moment, but in retrospect, um, completely logical. If that makes any sense. Like, oh, that was not surprising, but unexpected. If that makes any sense. It's just one step left of what you were anticipating, but in retrospect, it's like, oh, that makes perfect sense. That was weird. Um, yeah. But
Yeah.
how about for yourself? How have you refined your definition of weird over 50 plus episodes of your show?
It's hard. I think I love that everyone has its own definition,
Hmm.
because I think weirdness has a lot of to do with identity and being yourself and
Sure.
uniqueness.
Hmm.
And but I love this definition, being unexpected, but in retrospect, kind of feel that it should be that way.
Yeah.
I don't know about being completely illogical, because sometimes we love weird fiction, right?
Yeah.
Cthulhu and kind of stuff. Logical has no space there.
Yeah.
But we can expect. It makes sense because it's part of the fiction, like the
Right,
genre, the
yeah.
expectations of having your expectations subverted, which is kind of weird. Like we expect to have our expectations subverted, and
That's fair. Yeah.
right.
Yeah. I mean, it always has to
So-
make sense within context of the fiction, right? I mean, and that goes back to our
Yeah.
games. Like you can, if it's, you can make anything work as long as it's self-referential logic inside the adventure is true. Yeah, I'm trying to think of a good example.
Yeah, it has to be logical in that words. It has to be real for that reality, even
Yes.
though if it doesn't make any sense in our own reality.
Yeah,
because
yeah.
you know,
If within
we're playing with make believe. Yeah.
right, but it has to be there has to be an element of like constrained make believe, so that within its own bubble it makes sense. Outside of the bubble, it doesn't.
It makes completely sense.
Right.
For that
Yeah,
reality in a way,
yeah.
even though it's unexpected.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think this kind of touches what we spoke about at the top of the show, but everyone, if they're honest with themselves, has a unique set of desires and ambitions and creativity and personality elements.
Oh, for sure.
And I think if we were all more honest with ourselves and each other, we'd look around and the world would be so much richer, and we'd be like, wow, that Harley, that guy's weird. How fun is that? Like we don't want to meet the same, we don't want to meet the same,
Yeah.
You can buy a McDonald's Big Mac, and thank goodness every meal we're going to eat is not a McDonald's Big Mac. How boring would it be if all of us were identical, and if no one was weird,
Doing the
if no
same
one was
thing,
unique,
yeah.
and brought their own ideas to the table. So I think
Oh,
I think we're all
absolutely,
weird.
yeah.
It's just how much we're willing to share our
Yeah.
weirdness with others, and how much we have the courage to be
And-
authentic in our real life.
And accept our
Yeah.
own weirdness,
Yes,
right?
of course.
It's
Yes,
not about
yes.
accepting
Yeah.
our own weirdness. It's
Yeah.
always
but
say
but that's
everything. And we
hands down
are all weird in a way,
right.
but some peoples were taught not to accept their own weirdness, and that's how they have such a hard time accepting other people's weirdness, right? Because
Oh,
if they
that's
can't accept their own, how can they accept each other's?
that's interesting.
Yeah.
So maybe there's almost a I'm not a psychologist, but maybe there's a resentment there. Like,
Yeah.
well, like Diogo,
It's maybe conditioning too, right?
yeah,
Because
yeah.
you grew up always saying, no, you can't do that. People think you're weird. You
Right,
can't do
right,
that because that's what others expect from you. So you have been hammered this
Yes,
your whole life,
right,
and now these other people say, no, you can be who you are.
right.
You don't have to care.
Yeah.
But you have this in your mind constantly. No, you can't. You
Can't
can't.
do that, no.
It's hard to free yourself from this,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Even though we want to, sometimes it's just hard.
Yeah.
you know?
Well, and
Yeah.
we're probably resentful of those that are able to do it. It's like, oh,
Yeah.
well, like I've been
Even unconsciously, yeah.
yes, exactly.
Even unconsciously.
My whole life, you're trying to behave, and here's someone just acting out their life with a freedom that seems impossible to us, and we resent them for their freedom,
Yeah.
and their willingness to buck the system of what's being asked of them by society and culture. It's fun.
Yeah. For
Yeah.
sure.
Yeah,
Harley,
we're lucky. Sorry, really quick.
another thing.
Yeah, but like the
Go
culture
ahead.
of RPGs and gaming, I think is very weird friendly, right? Like you can go to a show
For sure.
if my best friend's wearing fox ears and a tail, like that's weird, but it's not out of the ordinary. It's not unexpected.
It's kind of a haven for weirdos in
Yeah,
a way.
yeah, it
right?
really is.
Especially this more indie
Yeah,
kind of spaces that explore these weird ideas, and
Yeah.
and I have this idea that weirdos kind of fight each other.
hmm
We attract each other
Yeah.
in a way.
Yeah.
So yeah,
We're so fortunate
Harley.
to be in that culture. Yeah, sorry, go.
One thing that I love to ask here too
Hmm.
is if you can identify any place or any app, any period of time where you see yourself drawing inspiration from a lot. I know as creators and artists, we always, as we said, like trying to be in tune, be mindful in detecting these masters from the universe, to make our art better. But I also, at least myself particularly, have this period of time, especially in my childhood, all the stuff that I like dinosaurs,
Yeah.
Master of the Universe,
Oh,
cartoons, comics, Saturday
right.
morning, this kind of stuff
Yeah.
that I see myself constantly drawing from. Do you have anything like this for you? Any
Yeah.
part of culture, any period of time you see you constantly drawing ideas from?
I think it'd be interesting to do like a, I don't know, maybe for your 100th show. Oh, nice!
Yeah.
For your 100th show, we have to do a survey across all the weirdos you've interviewed. For me, it would be around like Stella or your son's age, right around third and fourth grade. Um, I was that was like the high point when I was introduced to, for me it was Advanced Dungeons and Dragons at the time. Um, and 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 and
Mm-hmm.
and it just seemed like there was this endless potential, this endless possibility of um, adventures and and source books and that sort of thing, and comics. Um, and so a lot of the RPG stuff I create is like, oh well, this I expected that I would be able to find this adventure back when I was four in, whatever, 1980, blah blah blah, like, or in fourth grade, I guess. I expected, where was this adventure? This adventure was never made. All right, well, I get to make it now. I get to make this thing that I thought was always out there, and it turned out it wasn't. And
So you
so,
make
yeah,
the stuff you want to play,
yeah.
right?
Thank you. That's a much more succinct way of
Yeah.
putting it. Yeah, right. I mean, we're as a judge who happens to have the privilege to write this stuff. I'm always making things, like you said, that I want to play, that I want to be able to share with my players, that I want to, you know, no judge is going to give this to me, so I need to create it so I can give it to somebody else.
Mm-hmm. Of course, yeah. That's the way I do my work too. I make the games I want to play. They are not out there,
Uh-huh.
Even I make like a fantasy game. Oh, there are like so many fantasy games out there. Like yes, but they don't do exactly what I
Right,
want them to do. So
right, right.
I make them.
Yeah,
Uh,
yeah.
Also, can you identify? Do you have any? We talked about your mother and your father being kind of role models,
Sure.
but do you also identify any other kind of creator or artist that influence you in the way you do your work, in the way you approach your craft,
Hmm.
be it in role playing games or in any other medium like writing, comics, in anything else that you use either as a role model for doing your work or how you portray yourself
Sure,
in the space?
sure. Well, I think collaborating with Doug Kovacs is a core element of the things that I get to do. I'm always trying to, you wrote about, or you spoke about commissioning, artwork for your adventure. I'm always trying to
Yeah.
to to write an adventure or a game good enough for like a Doug Kovacs cover. If that makes sense, like, at some point
Wow. Yeah.
he'll share the cover with me, and I'm trying to like write up to that level, as I'm creating. Like, oh well, that wasn't good art. Give it back to me for another month. I want to try doing this, and this, to make it half as cool as Doug's telling people that it's going to be, through the medium of his artwork. Um, I think of, yeah, just
That's an excellent way of
oh
seeing things.
yeah,
Do you see yourself being inspired by his art a lot? Have you
oh absolutely.
how did you change your writing inspired by Doug's art, for example?
Oh
Have
well,
you any example you remember, for example?
yeah. I mean, even just down to something as simple as the details. So, Sailors on the Starless Sea, it has iconic.
Yeah, I heard the story. Yeah.
Yeah. But originally, when I had written it, it was much more of a Warhammer clad in black, glossy armor, and then it was Doug. He threw all that out and created a
Yeah.
completely unique,
An
foe.
iconic.
Iconic,
Yeah.
right? It's used everywhere now by Goodman Games. Had nothing to do with anything I had written, but was so compelling and so visually beautiful that I went back and rewrote that whole section. And that's small, that's trivial, but it's also a way that we're so fortunate to be in an industry where we can play off those ideas, right? So like if you commission a cover and it comes back, it has certain elements that you didn't anticipate. You're able to change up your game. Like, oh, that's a great idea. Like, I never thought about riding dinosaurs or what have you. Like, but like there's just we have this freedom. We're not machines. We have this freedom to work with the art, and the art can work with the writing, and in the end, that collaboration makes for a far better a project that's bigger than just the sum of my ideas. It's grown into something beyond whatever tiny conception Harley had at the start. It's grown into something bigger that has more meaning.
Yeah, that's a great way of seeing this and approaching arts and collaborating and seeing how we can learn from each other. It's kind of what I try to do in this podcast too. These things that we share to each other and the way you approach your work and you see this collaboration. I kind of try to learn and emulate and grow with the stuff that you share here. So thank you for this. And I've there's the Return to the Starless Sea now, right? That was just released. Yeah. I just got that at GaryCon.
Yeah, Terry Olson.
Yeah, I'm excited to.
Yeah, they did a great job.
Yeah,
they did a really fun.
That's a classic adventure and so inspiring.
Yeah,
and
well,
one of my favorites too is Doom of Savage Kings, which is a classic that I.
Thank you.
I played on stream. It's amazing. It's
that was a fun one. That was a fun one. Yeah.
Harley,
yes, sir.
Do you can you identify anything in your work in the adventures that you do that's kind of your weird mark that you leave in your work?
That's a great question. Right.
I mean, people from the outside, I mean, we kind of know the feeling of a Harley Stroh adventure is always very pulpy, it's very exciting.
Well, I was going to say that. I think there's a cadence to the way that I write.
The cadence.
That it is. It's not unique to me, but it's something that
it's kind of open-ended too.
Yeah, when I'm writing those sections, I'm having as much fun, hopefully, as the person who's reading them. If that makes any sense, it's really it's. I think my best adventures are the ones that are weird. They're just one step left of, because my adventures are they're pretty vanilla. They're pretty traditional fantasy, but then just one step removed, from the normal. They're just, they're not like hubris, right? Like, if there's a spectrum of weirdness, some things are like a 10 and mines are always going to be like a 3 or a 4. They're just, I think, I don't know.
They can be subtle, but it's significant. The weirdness can be subtle, but it's significant.
I think,
and I love that.
For a judge to convey a story or an adventure to their players, they need to be able to have enough of a hold on that reality that they can describe it, they can deliver it, they can tell it, like, what does the pine tree smell like, and what does the bark feel like, and there's soil beneath your feet. And if you move too far out of that reality, it's harder to describe, right? like like you were talking about Cthulhu. Okay, so Cyclopean, weirdness deep beneath the ocean. What does that look like? Well, I don't know. It can't be described because it's outside of reality, and your players are left with, well, trying to imagine something that you can't describe. And so I think the closer we hew to the real world, and then just move it just a little bit out of that bubble, the easier it is for judges and players to imagine
Yeah.
those worlds.
And I think that also highlights the weird, because
Yes,
if
yes,
like everything is weird, everything is fantastic and out of the
yeah,
ordinary, nothing is in a way,
right,
right?
right,
But if we have the normal, the standard, the expected, and
yeah,
everything is working as usual, and when something goes just a little bit slide off the track, it's kind of, whoa, what's going on
yeah.
here?
This
You
is
know?
something to pay attention to. No, you're absolutely right. You're absolutely right.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. But Harley, now we are getting like we are over an hour, and now I'm gonna start asking more personal questions, if you don't mind.
Oh, please.
Asking stuff more about you and your experiences. And one thing that I like to start asking is about maybe if you had any weird experience, any weird, supernatural experience that you think are supernatural. Maybe have you ever had, an out of body experience, or maybe a near death experience that made you see the world in a different way and reflect on your life and
Sure,
mortality, anything like this?
sure. I think I exist in a Harley's world is one where those things are alive. I remember I went through a period of my youth when I would get really angry, and I would punch out windshields from inside of the cars. Right, I would lose my temper. I'd be coming home
Wow.
from my job late at night, and I'd punch a windshield and crack the windshield. I'd get home, have to explain to my parents that I'd broken another windshield. This happened 2 or 3 times, and they're like, "Harley, you have to stop doing this. You can't lose your temper and punch any more windshields. This is really expensive." And now as an adult, I'm like, "Oh my god, those are really expensive. What was I doing?" And then
And
sure,
dangerous. Like the expensive is one thing, like when it's
yeah.
dangerous, it's
But
yeah.
so one night,
Uh,
after I'd been told very clearly, "Harley, you may not do this anymore," I did it. I lost my temper and punched the windshield and broke the windshield again. And I'm like, "Oh
uh,
fuck, what am I gonna do?" My parents are gonna be furious. And so I'm driving home. I'm like, "All right,
what did you get
was it?"
angry about? Did you remember?
Oh, I think
What did
I
you get
can't even remember.
angry about?
Yeah, that's a great question. I was probably fighting with my little brother or something. Um, it was stupid. It wasn't anything significant.
That's great too. Like we get so angry about stuff
Yeah,
that in a couple of years we won't remember, right?
yeah, yeah. Well,
Yeah.
and that's
But go ahead, go ahead.
well. So
Yeah.
I'm driving home. Like, okay, well, I'm gonna make up a lie. I'm gonna tell him that I hit an owl driving home. I'm gonna tell them that's what happened. And so I'm driving home, and we live out in the middle of nowhere, on this homestead, through the forest, out on the prairie, and I'm turning, the last 2 miles to get home, and sure enough, an owl comes out of nowhere. Like, poor guy, like, glances off the
Wow.
windshield. um, and I was like, oh, and I'm sure that my parents don't believe me, but it happened. The same night that
The universe.
I
You
yeah,
see the universe again.
yeah, the same night that I punched the windshield, I also my
Wow.
lie came true, and so I try to be really careful now about not telling lies for fear that they might come true. If that makes any sense.
Wow.
Like,
Yes.
Harley, why didn't you come to work
And
today?
and, and you
Yeah, sorry.
and you said you didn't had any weird thing to share, and like in the beginning, like, yeah, I don't know if I had any
But I'm
weird
sure
thing to
everybody
share.
has this experience, right?
Yeah, yeah. Wow.
Yeah, yeah, and so, but that's that. So, but supernatural. I've never seen something I would mistake as a ghost. I've never had an out of body experience. Um, nothing traditionally along that way. When I was in college, I'd spend a lot of time um, walking, like just just walking. If I got, if a girl, dumped me or whatever, I'd go for like an 8 mile walk. Or if something untoward happened,
Mm-hmm.
I would walk, to the edge of town, to the highway and back. And I'd be gone, for the day or whatever. But often walking at night, and I think a lot of people have this sensation, and it's not, you get that feeling, okay, I'm being watched, something's watching me, something's following me. We've all had that. And I remember very
Yes.
distinctly this one night I was crossing the railroad tracks. It was probably 2 or 3 in the morning. Um, and I had a perception. I don't think it was real, but I had the perception that something was following me. So I crossed over the railroad tracks, and I turned back around, and I shouted into the darkness, like, daring this thing to come and get me, saying that, even if whatever abducted me or took me away, I had these punk rock friends that were going to come and chase it down, and I don't know what they would have done. Harley just would have vanished into the darkness. They never would have been able to find me again. But yeah, and then yeah, so there's, yeah, but that's the reality that I
Well,
choose to live in.
yeah,
That doesn't necessarily
yeah,
apply to anybody else. That's not my children's reality. Hopefully, although Stella loses her temper all the time, that's not my wife's reality. But the reality the world that I interact with is alive in that
yeah.
way. So at the same time, all right, one last story, then I'll shut up. In
No,
college,
go ahead, please.
I would periodically. I don't know what was. I was so beset. Man, I must have been. I don't know. But anyways, I'd be sad about something. Anyways, there was this there was this chapel on campus, and I would go to it at like 3 in the morning. I remember it has this like really this hammered copper doors, these two hammered copper doors, which still appear in my adventures to these days. And some nights I would go to these doors at 3 in the morning, and I'd try them, and they would be open. And then I'd go in, I'd find a pew, I'd sit down, and just think. And then some nights I'd check it
Mm-hmm.
at 3 in the morning, and the doors would be closed. And I eventually, this is terrible theology. I'm glad that you're an atheist, but I convinced myself that anytime that the doors were open, I really needed to like think about it. And anytime the doors were locked, I didn't. I had made that up myself. It wasn't as important as I thought it needed to be.
Mm-hmm.
But, yeah.
Wow, yeah,
So
and you talked about this problem of anger. Do you still deal with that today, and if you do, how do you deal with that? Do you have any exercise? Do you have any techniques to
yeah,
deal with that?
I'm I'm a much better. So um, during
I mean, I never imagined this. You like super chill, super, yeah.
you're very nice.
What I mean.
Um, I so so when it doesn't happen much during the fall and winter months, but during the spring and summer and early fall, I'm the free time that I do have that I'm not being either a dad or at work or a writer. Um,
Mm-hmm.
I go skateboarding, and
Oh yeah.
and the physical act of like falling and hitting the concrete and just being kind of like shocked back into your body. Like I'll come back from a session, I'll be limping, but my joints will feel loose and good and relaxed in a way that they hadn't beforehand, and I'm just a happier human being. And I'm sure there's a scientific rationale,
Yeah.
like I don't know, like whatever. It's really
Exercise is good for you.
exercise
That's
is good
the
for you. Yeah, that's what it is. But
Yeah, it's good
yeah,
for not only for your body, for your mental health,
yes.
for everything.
So
Yes.
so I think that's
And
that's how I deal with my emotions now.
and what about during the winter and in the colder months? Do
Yeah.
you do
Um,
any kind of physical activity or?
I try to. So I live in Colorado, where I mean we go snowboarding and skiing as a family, but that's with the kids. That's more me like on the mountain trying to protect them from getting run over. As they get better and better,
Yeah.
that's less of a concern. Um, but no, it's definitely trickier. I brought 2 quarter pipes into the basement here. The floor is concrete, So for a little while, I had tried to set up a little skate park in my basement, but
Wow.
um, but eventually, being a family, that we had to,
Yeah.
that wasn't able to stay for a while. Yeah, yeah. So I guess the answer is not as much as I'd like, and
Yeah. Yeah.
but I think you're right. I think
But
exercise is crucial to mental health.
oh yeah, I mean, I don't like it, but I feel worse when I don't do it.
Yeah.
That's the thing.
How long did it take you
And
to come to that realization, though?
oh, very long time. I
Yeah.
I never liked it. During high school, I was in the swimming team.
Uh huh.
I did some workout here and there, like trying to lose weight. But it was only after the pandemic that I realized that I have to do it for my health. It's
That
not to
is,
lose weight.
yeah.
It's not to look good.
Right.
It's just to be better for myself, for my kids,
Yeah.
and for my mind too. Because when I travel and I spend like more than a week without doing anything,
Yeah.
I started getting more anxious. I started
Yeah.
seeing
Yeah.
how I need to move my body, or my mind gets cloudy.
Uh huh. Uh huh.
I started getting fixated on stupid shit that I shouldn't
Yeah.
be
Yeah.
fixating about. And yeah, it I just realized it now, like a couple of years ago.
That's
Yeah,
remarkable. That's fantastic. But what a gift
yeah,
that you're able to see that, and so you can hand that down to your children, and hopefully it won't take them 20 years to
yeah.
come to that realization, right? You'd be like, well, no, hold on, guys.
We're trying, right? But it is hard. I have a really hard time getting my kid off screens.
Sure, sure.
Screens is like YouTube. I hate YouTube.
Oh my
And
gosh.
all this, yeah,
Especially
it's
like something
terrible.
like kids YouTube. It's like designed to be addictive. It's like these
Yes, it
5 minute
is. It
shorts, these
is.
3 minute shorts are maddening. Um, and
Yeah, he doesn't even watch those. He's into more like 15 to 20, 30 minutes Minecraft, or like these games that one kid throws each other out like repeatedly. It's
uh,
the same thing over and over,
uh,
but he loves it.
is
He
that
just watches it all the time.
what is that
Yeah.
about? I wonder because Jacob doesn't say like it. I mean I don't know. I'm showing my age, but to watch someone else play the game, I don't see the
Yeah.
attraction. But like for
Yeah.
Minecraft, Jacob adores it.
But I mean,
Yeah.
to be fair, do you watch sports?
No.
That's what sports is, right?
You're
I
absolutely right.
don't too.
You're
But
absolutely
I
right.
mean, but I
Yeah.
mean, a lot of people just watch other people play
You're
games. That's what
thank you.
sports
You're
is.
absolutely right. That's no different.
Yeah.
That's no different. But
Yeah.
I would lose my mind.
I can't too, like streams. I play in streams,
Right.
to promote my game and to play other people games. I play in them,
Yeah.
but I don't watch them.
Right.
Like
Well, I mean
it's
that
no, I want to play.
the 4 hours you could be creating a new game, and it's
Yes,
not
or you
just
can
been
breeding.
watching
You
it.
can be. I don't know. Yeah.
Yeah.
I
No, but you're
don't know.
right. There's that.
But I kind of feel like I want to watch you because I feel like I can learn
Sure,
from good
that
GMs.
makes sense. But
I
that,
remember
yeah,
when I played with you, the brief time I played with you, I learned so much, and I feel like I should play with more people to learn from them. And
yeah,
people will always say like this or that gem
yeah,
is so good. So
yeah.
I kind of think, maybe I should watch this. But there's so much we should watch, right? I don't know.
Yeah.
It's not about doing things. I remember like you talk about doing things instead of watching TV, and I kind of like watching TV because there's a lot of good stuff. So I
Uh-huh.
always divided between feeling bad about watching TV, but knowing there's good stuff in TV too that I should be
Yeah,
watching, what I should be
yeah.
drawing, what the hell should I do? It's difficult to decide. Do you watch TV? Do you like watching? Do you have shows or movies or stuff
I,
that you
I have a
you like
list.
watching or no?
I have a list of things of movies that I want to watch. That I haven't gotten to ever since my children were born. Like I
Yeah.
still haven't seen The Green Knight. What was that? 2 or 3, 4 years ago now.
Oh yeah.
I have a whole,
Yeah. Yeah.
anyway. I have a whole list of things
It's
that
a very good one. I
is
like that.
I want to see it. I want to, see it, but I haven't had the
Uh-huh.
opportunity to yet. There's just it's hard. There's what we talked about earlier. There's so
Yeah.
the
And
minutes in
first
there.
of all, we have kids.
yes, yeah,
So our kids dominates the TV
sure.
completely. The only day of TV I have is Sunday. Sunday is it's parents' TV time. And when the kid goes to bed too. When the
Yeah,
kids
yeah,
goes to bed, I
yeah. For us, we're trying to limit it to only to the weekends now. But yeah, yeah.
yeah. Uh, Harley, and we talk about supernatural. Do you and not believing stuff, but uh, talking a little bit about now of religion and spirituality,
Sure.
or maybe even philosophy. Are you a religious person? Are you spiritual, or do you follow or study any kind of philosophy that maybe
No,
helps you in your daily life and guides you in any
sure,
way?
sure. I, 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 while I am in constant or frequent dialogue with the world, I would not say that I have a overriding religion or philosophy that informs that. Um, just
But
mostly,
but you're constant in dialogue with the world. How is that?
oh, just like I shared earlier, shouting at train tracks, and there's crows outside the window, and
Oh
oh my
yeah.
gosh, there's a whole bunch of uh, mushrooms on the ground. Yeah,
Oh yeah.
there's just moments where it feels like the world and I are and
That's some kind of spirituality in a way, like
maybe,
feeling
maybe.
this oneness
But
and
I also,
connecting.
yeah, and I also, though, I know that human beings are designed, not designed. Human beings are we have the ability. We try to make stories out of everything, and so
Yes.
if I see three raindrops fall, then four raindrops fall, then five raindrops fall, I'll a human could make it up in their head that that has significance or meaning. Um,
Hmm.
it drives me a little bit crazy when people say everything happens for a reason, because somewhere in the world right now there's a child starving to death,
Yeah.
and that shit
Hmm.
that did not happen for a reason. That well, but it did because I didn't feed that kid, right? Like
Hmm.
that did happen for a reason. It wasn't a good one. But at the same time, I think that human beings have this storytelling ability in our own brains where we can make a reason for everything, and we can find meaning in all this stuff.
Hmm.
And I think that's probably that's I don't know, as we try to be better human beings, as we try to take care of each other and our immediate families and these ever increasing concentric circles around ourselves, it's really important to take responsibility and just for the just do what we can. And so while
Yeah.
Harley gets to have the privilege of perceiving this dialogue with the world, which grants me like real emotional, like I'll see something or something will transpire and it's like, oh, I didn't see that coming, but I totally knew that was coming. Um, so while I get to enjoy that, I don't get to impose that on anyone else. I'm just rambling now, um, but I guess
Yeah.
I guess to
But
answer your question, not no religion, no overriding philosophy, um, but
hmm
but hoping to observe the world and hopefully take responsibility for what I can in making it a better place for those around me.
that is kind of a philosophy in a way, right? Even though you may not have, got it from a book or anything,
Right.
it kind of has similarities with Stoicism, which is something that I study a lot in a way. And it's something you mentioned that I always ask here too is, you talked about there's mushrooms, and one thing that I like to ask too is that if maybe you ever had any, mind altering experiences, be it through deep meditation, hypnosis, or even, the use of psychedelics
Sure,
like mushrooms, for example.
sure.
And if you did, how was that experience for you, and did it change the way you see the world in any way?
Yeah, I think so mushrooms are now legal here in Colorado along with cannabis. But for whatever reason, maybe it was because I so when I grew up, like we couldn't see our nearest neighbors. Like we lived on 360 acres. There was there was not another building within sight apart from the farm we were on.
Mm-hmm.
And so all I could do for fun was we well so either we had to work, and that was building something on the farm, or my
Mm-hmm.
dad would let us go on hikes, my brother and I. And so those were our two choices for our activities. You can either build the newest shed, or you can, if you want to, you can go for a hike. Um, and so we would load up our backpacks with D&D books and go for a hike, like walk out, into the wilderness, 2 or 3 miles, and then sit down
Wow, yeah.
and read.
Do a hex scroll.
Yeah, exactly. And then read the Dungeon Master's Guide. Um, shoot, this had a point. What was the question again? I'm so sorry.
About
Psychedelic.
mind altering
So,
experiences and
but,
mushrooms and
but so thank you. Sorry, but all that was to say that I didn't have the opportunity to indulge or engage in any of those because
mm-hmm.
I was just out in the middle of nowhere. I couldn't even get to like a 7-Eleven or a convenience store,
Yeah, yeah.
let alone like it was a 45-minute drive to get to school, and so
Mm-hmm.
all those things like whatever. So the sad answer is no. I haven't engaged in any of those, but mostly just because of not for any moral reasons, but
Yeah.
just because
Are you curious though about them? I never tried them
yeah,
before a couple of years ago too. I never did them
yeah,
as a kid, I
yeah.
only
No, I
experimented with them recently,
uh-huh.
dealing with mental health issues.
Yeah, yeah,
And after I dealt with that, I used them recreationally, but
uh-huh.
it was initially, you know, like therapy
Yeah.
stuff,
I have
guided
I
and
have a
stuff.
friend who's a therapist, and she recommends them and uses them herself. Um, I sleepwalk a lot, especially when I'm under stress,
Mm.
and so
Oh wow.
when I sleepwalk, I'll be interacting with reality, like it could be a con, right? And you and I are sharing a room at the embassy suites, and I'll see the room, and you're in the bed opposite on the other side of the room. I'm in my bed, but there'll be a fantasy overlay, which is usually most often like enormous black spiders, like moving along the ceiling or the floor and the walls. And so I'll start
Mm-hmm.
interacting with that lens on the real
Wow.
world, to the point of like I might try to save your life, so I'll come over to your bed, I'll throw you over my shoulder and carry you outside of the room so that we can escape these spiders, which has happened before. So like I
Wow.
during college I carried a girlfriend out of a burning building, and deposited her outside the dorms, and then went back upstairs to my room and went back to bed. Um, the building wasn't burning. I just had the dream that it was
Yeah.
burning. Um, and so, which is all to say that I wonder if part of not having indulged in any sort of drugs or what have you is it's just my brain is so fragile already. Like my relationship with reality is so
Yeah.
tenuous as it is. Like a lot of my nights are
Yeah.
spent in this altered state. I don't know what
Mm-hmm.
I'd do if I did it while I was awake. Um, yeah,
Yeah. I
I'm
see.
yeah,
Wow.
yeah. It was really
I
yeah.
never, yeah.
Sorry, you go.
I never remember my dreams,
Uh huh. Uh huh.
And
Yeah.
that's also one of the games I'm writing is a solo journaling game about making a dream journal
Uh huh.
that you generate your own dreams
Oh,
because I can't remember my dreams.
oh,
So
that's cool.
I'm making a game so I can create my own dreams.
That's
Uh, and yeah.
that's so cool. That's so cool.
But I mean, do you always have these dreams like when you're like sleepwalking? Are they always kind of bad? Like they're dangerous and like nightmares, or
Yeah. Yeah.
have you ever had like good dreams while you were
Well, I mean,
sleepwalking
I
or
have, but the active sleepwalking dreams are always in response to some sort of there's
stress?
something
You
bad
said.
going on. Like one time
I see.
I had I was camping, and I was camping with my girlfriend, and for whatever reason she was swallowing these hot balls of lead, into her throat, and so I
Wow.
had to save her. And so the only way to do that was to grab her by the throat and try to massage these hot balls of lead up out of her throat. Well, the poor girl wakes up and Harley's on top of her, like choking her.
Yeah. Wow.
And then, then there was another time, like someone threw a grenade into our room, and so I pulled the mattress up over on top of us, and can't move, like wait till the grenade goes off, and this poor woman, wakes. She's wakes up. Harley's on top of her. The mattress is on top of us. I'm screaming that we have to wait until the grenade detonates before we can go back out into the room. And it was like all of this was terrifying when the kids were tiny.
Mm-hmm.
Like, what if I had a nightmare and grabbed baby Stella and ran her out into a snowdrift to hide her from the wolves, and then fell back asleep?
Oh yeah.
But thankfully, like none of that ever transpired. But it was always in the back of my head that I had to be, as much as possible, I needed to not have
scary.
active sleep terrors. Anyways, but yeah.
How often do you have this kind of? No, it's stress based, right? So
it is.
How often people
Yeah.
bust your balls? I guess
it happens all the time at cons. All the time at cons.
Oh yeah, really?
Oh yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Do you find conventions stressful for you?
Horribly
Or
stressful.
it's because it's like the load of work, or just like anxiety
work.
for all these people?
Yeah, it's a social anxiety. You want to.
Yeah.
I have a hard time. Like if I were to go to the supermarket and someone's in the aisle, I'll walk around a different aisle to get at something that's just past them. Like I have a hard time with people.
Social battery and stuff.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. But then at a convention where you're going to be sitting down at a table with 7 strangers and hopefully running a game for them that they love.
Oh yeah.
That's exhausting.
Yeah, that's very demanding, right?
Oh,
yeah.
God, I hate it. Like, I don't know about you, but like after
I think
I'll go back, and if I can, I'll just stay in the hotel room and not move for an hour.
I think that's why I don't schedule too many events and just go to hang out with people I know.
Yeah.
Because I feel like the same way. Like even if I'm running a game for people that I know, it's still kind of a performance, especially because there's all these amazing people that I admire, and I have to run a game for them.
Ugh.
What if it sucks,
Yeah.
And I think that's why I don't schedule much stuff.
Sure.
I just try to hang out because it's less pressure, right?
Yeah.
And less demanding for my social anxiety and stuff.
Ugh.
Yeah.
It's exhausting. But like one of our first shows, Doug Kovacs. It's great because like Doug Kovacs gets a bad rap for being this person who just like hates the world and misanthrope and hates humanity. But like one of our first interactions, I was sleeping in a room with him, and I was trying to get out the door in the middle of the night, and he had to maybe I was trying to get out the window. I was trying to get out, and he had to tackle me, and I was punching him, and he was doing everything in his power to de-escalate, Harley Stroh, who's asleep, and then we had this wrestling match at 4 a.m. And,
wow.
And I've been really, all the times I've just always been really fortunate to be around these people who are non-violent, like trying to de-escalate things as I'm.
Yeah.
Punching and kicking and trying to do whatever it is that Harley thinks needs doing in the sleep.
Wow. Yeah. Harley, I'm going into like the last portion of the show, which are more like whimsical, kind of funny questions to know more about you, your personality, the stuff that you like.
Yeah.
And the first question is, if you could live in any, fictional setting, fictional world, universe, where would you live, and what character would you be in that world? And it can be from games, from literature, from movies, from comics, from cartoons.
Yeah.
Any place, anywhere. Who would you be and why?
All right. So I'm not going to try to dance around. Like, I would love to be a character in a fictional universe where you live forever and you'd always have the ability to create. and that deadline for creation would never stop. So, but I don't know what world or setting that is. So I think
That's a god, right? You
yeah,
want to be a god. That's basically
yeah, sure.
what you're saying.
Yeah, I'll be the god of
So
ducks.
maybe in Olympus or
Yeah,
something
yeah,
like
yeah,
that. Yeah.
yeah. Um,
But there's Ragnarok,
there's
there's
Ragnarok,
like
right?
there's
And
also
all, yeah,
yeah.
the wolf gets free and the giants get out, and it all comes burning down. I think. Let's see. I've always, as a child, I always loved like stories of Robin Hood or the like Arthurian tales. That's yeah. I'll be Merlin. Let me. I'll be Merlin in some Dark Ages setting. That's
Arthurian
there
Chronicles,
we go.
yeah.
Yeah, yeah,
Or do you want to be Merlin in like the Mount Python and the Holy Grail or something like
yeah.
that?
I'll take either one. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
How about you? How would you answer that question? Do you have a setting you'd want to live
Wow,
in?
yeah. I haven't answered this one yet. Maybe I hadn't thought about it, but I don't know. I'll answer the first thing that came to my mind would be I would love to be in Barsoom
Oh,
and be, you know, maybe one of the nice one. I mean, the after John Carter
uh huh.
reigns with Deja Torres and defend the honor and the nation and work to better
There you go.
Barsoom.
There you go.
I love the setting. I love the mythology. I love
Hmm.
the very weird kind of religion and questioning the religion.
Yeah,
I'm all about questioning religion
that's
in
fantastic.
a way. So
Yes.
yeah. Also, Harley, if you could have any superpower, what superpower would you have, and what would be the first thing you would do with that?
Well, the honest answer is to be invisible. So, because I'm so shy, that's the first thing I would do with it. I would,
Ah,
yeah, I would be invisible. But if I could stop time and have the ability to write more, that'd be pretty wonderful too.
oh yeah. Would you rather stop time to be able to work more,
Uh huh.
or oh yeah, that's probably better. I would ask you if you would prefer to like make clones of yourself so you could work on multiple stuff at the same time and
Yeah,
and spend time with the family while other people other youths would do the work.
yeah. I think I'd like
Uh,
to stop time and just still do all those things. There's no part of my life that I regret. I mean,
yeah,
my day job is
yeah,
wonderful.
no rushing. Yeah,
Yeah, my
that's
family's
what I'm asking.
wonderful.
Like you
The
would experience everything stopping time
yeah,
instead of experiencing it fragmented
right,
through
right.
your clone. So
I don't want to.
it's
I would
probably
not
better
want to
this
give up
way.
any one of those moments.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, absolutely,
yeah.
for sure. Yeah. And the other question is if you could pick anything from these fictional worlds, fictional universes, and make that thing real in our own world, what would you choose and why? And that thing can be a faction, it can be an entity, it can be a magical artifact, it can be energy source, any elements of the fiction from those universe and make it real in our world. What did you make?
Oh, I think you just start simple, right? If you could offer, I've had too many friends that especially during COVID, that, um, yeah, potion of healing. Give me a magical potion that has no care about what is ailing the person, but is just going to heal them, and that would be wonderful. Yeah, because we have too many people
Yeah, yeah,
that have either died or yeah. If you could give my friends 1d8 hit points back, that'd be pretty awesome.
yeah. That's a great idea, and it's one I haven't heard before here, and it kind of surprising in a way. But yeah, absolutely. And finally, Harley, the last question is, do you remember the last time you felt really happy and just grateful for being here and being alive? And if you do, can you share us when was that and what is that you were doing?
Oh, sure. Well, I mean, honestly, like this entire interview has been one of those moments. I'm you and I don't know each other well, but I'm very affectionate of you. I appreciate having you in my life and the opportunity to like
Yeah, me
talk to you
too.
and just be free with
I
you.
wish we could hang out
I
more.
know,
Yeah,
right? But like this is one of those moments.
yeah.
Yeah, but there was let's see. Yeah, I often find when I'm coming home from work and there's just that special quality of light because now it's usually the sun is just about to go down, but you're free, you have family that loves you. I think I'm fortunate to have that feeling pretty frequently. Yeah, there's I live a really privileged, fortunate life. Um, my family's healthy, my children are healthy, my wife is happy. I have I have I have a
Yeah.
I have a job that's
Happy wife, happy life.
well, yeah, I have a job that's does good work, but I also have these creative endeavors that I get to do to really fulfill myself, and I'm very fortunate in that regard. So those moments where it's like of true just like unencumbered happiness, and are not terribly few and far between. It's not like every day is joyful. Like shit goes wrong every day, especially when you're a parent. Like
Oh yeah.
uh, but I'm fortunate enough that I have these opportunities to step back and really be grateful for the things that I enjoy. And this is one of those moments.
You,
Because I
yeah.
went from the depths of, oh man, I totally screwed this up. I stiffed yoga and it's 2 hours late, and then you swoop in and you're like, no worries, like we can go on in 15 minutes, and like,
Yeah.
oh, thank you, universe, thank you, Diogo. What a relief. Thank you so much. But it's
Yeah,
like,
I mean we all do stuff like this, right? We can't be,
yeah, but
it's very easy to say, oh, they forgot because they don't care
right,
or
right,
something. Because
right.
I do, I do that all the time. So, right?
Yeah, but
I'm a mess.
we make it personal.
I,
Yeah, yeah. But it doesn't need to be personal.
so
Yeah. So I don't know.
yeah,
Thank you.
absolutely.
Thank you for your grace and yeah, for making this
Yeah,
possible.
thank you for being here and making time for this.
Yeah.
And one thing the last thing I want to ask you, talking about gratitude and taking moments to do this, is if you have, do you have a practice of, stopping? Do you have a gratitude practice? Do you often stop to be grateful for all these amazing things that you
Right.
have and you are aware that you have?
I think what we've learned in the last 2 hours is that I don't think about my life very much. I'm more of an impulsive, emotional writer than one that's methodical, and I live my life the same way. I'm I'll
Yeah.
always I'll get in.
If it works, if
Yeah,
it works, right?
it's. So do I have a practice? No. Am I giving thanks? The fact that I got to wake up this morning and roll out of bed. Absolutely. Like look at this. I get another day to try
Yeah.
to create stuff and make something that might be of useful to another human being. So I don't have a practice, but I am frequently just very very grateful. Not looking up to some bearded man in the
That's
sky,
great. Yeah.
but just like looking up in the sky, just appreciating the beauty of where I get to live. Um,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah,
It helps a lot, I think. Not necessarily being grateful to someone, but just grateful for, what I said, like being here
yeah.
and experiencing this and having to talk to you, having the opportunity to talk to all these amazing creators. And I'm so thankful for being here. You are one of my favorite adventure writers.
Thank you, man.
Your adventures inspire me so much, and I use them in a lot of different games. Like for example, Sailors of the Starless Sea, I've run as adventuring so many different games in so many different genres. I can use the same adventure in like a post-apocalyptic, in like a
Oh,
futuristic game. You cannot, like in prehistoric game. I'm making
yeah.
it. I'm running this is slightly different and being like the cult of the dinosaur god. So these
Oh,
people are capturing people and throwing these pits, and these creatures are turning to half humans, half dinosaurs. So it's very. inspiring in the way you make your work. It's open-ended, it's a fun way to play, and it's very playful. So I'm very grateful for this.
Thank you.
Harley,
Yeah.
do you have any last message for the wonderful weirdos that are listening to us?
Oh,
Still?
yeah, they're not alone. There's people like yourself and myself and all the other guests that you've had on, and the world is so much richer for weirdos being honest and being weird, and the more that we're weird, hopefully it'll inspire other people to embrace what's unique about themselves and share that with the world.
That's amazing. And where people can find you and your work? I know Goodman Games. Do you have any social media that people can follow and see what you're
really
working on?
I got completely off Twitter, which was fantastic for my mental health. And I follow a bunch of people on Instagram, but I haven't gotten good at posting anything, so I don't know.
Follow Goodman Games, I guess, right?
They can write
your next thing.
And write me a letter, or you could post a letter to Colorado, and I'd love to receive it.
That's awesome. Harley, can you take us out saying the catchphrase of the show, which is "Keep it weird, everybody"?
It would be my privilege, sir. All right, thank you guys for spending 2 hours with us. We really appreciate everyone that listens. I was disappointed that there's only like one rating on. We need more ratings for the show. I think there's only one person who said your podcast is amazing. So everyone should hang up now, go and read your podcast and say it's amazing. But everyone,
I will read the review. If you write a review, I will read it on the show. And also, if you go on the Spotify page, there's like place for you to ask questions or say something. So if you have a supernatural story to share, some weird experience, right there, I'll read it on the air. Like on the podcast. Like this is not radio, but it's let's get in touch. Let's get weird together.
Yeah, let's get weird and keep it weird, everybody. Have a great night.
Thank you for listening to Weird Games and Weirder People. If you'd like to keep up with the show, please subscribe to be notified when we release new episodes. If you'd like to support us, please leave a review or head on to code-fi.com/WGNWP. See you next time, and remember, weird is the new wonderful.